The office was silent that Saturday night. Desks empty, lights dimmed, except for one screen that kept blinking with unread emails. Dozens of them, all from the same person, the boss. But there was just one problem. One employee had stopped replying, and that single act of silence would set off a chain of events no one in the company saw coming. On the 14th floor of a Manhattan tech firm, employees whispered about Ethan, a mid-level analyst in his late 20s. Hardworking, reliable, never missed a deadline. But unlike his co-workers, he refused to answer weekend emails. To his boss, Mr. Callahan, that was unacceptable. A man known for his sharp suits and sharper tongue, Callahan believed loyalty meant being available 24/7. Vacations? Family? Boundaries? Irrelevant. If you worked for him, you worked on his clock. At first, Callahan laughed it off. Maybe the kid's phone died. But as Ethan's silence stretched over 2 whole weekends, that laugh turned into anger. By Monday morning, Callahan had already planned Ethan's downfall. He called him out in front of the entire team. Some people think this is a 9-to-5 job. But in this company, we grind. If you can't handle that, maybe you don't belong here. The room went quiet. All eyes turned to Ethan. But he didn't flinch. He just looked his boss in the eye and said calmly, "I don't work for you on weekends. That's my time." Gasps rippled across the office. Nobody spoke to Callahan like that. By Friday, Ethan received a formal HR warning. Failure to meet communication expectations. But what Callahan didn't know, Ethan had been keeping records. Every late-night call, every midnight text, every urgent email that wasn't urgent at all. Ethan forwarded the records, hundreds of after-hours demands, to HR. But not just HR, to the Department of Labor. Suddenly, Callahan's threats weren't just workplace drama. They were evidence of labor law violations. Within weeks, investigators arrived. Not for Ethan, for Callahan. Turns out, the company had been breaking overtime and rest period laws for years, and Callahan's emails were the smoking gun. The man who mocked Ethan for having boundaries was escorted out by security. No golden handshake. No fancy farewell. Just silence. And the very next day, HR announced a new policy. No employee shall be required to answer emails outside contracted hours. Ethan walked past his coworkers, heads turning as he went by. For once, silence didn't mean weakness. It meant strength. At home that night, he tucked away his phone. And for the first time in years, he actually enjoyed a weekend without fear. This isn't just about one employee or one company. It's about respect. Boundaries are not rebellion, they're survival. And when someone abuses power long enough, the silence they once mocked becomes the voice that brings them down. Ethan had won. The arrogant boss was gone. And for the first time, weekends were his again. Ethan thought it was over. His boss, Callahan, had been fired. The company changed its policies. Justice had been served. But 2 weeks later, a letter arrived that changed everything. The letter wasn't from HR. It wasn't an apology. It was from Callahan's lawyer, a man known for burying small clients in paperwork until they surrendered. The lawsuit accused Ethan of defamation of character. Damages claimed, $250,000. Ethan's heart sank. He didn't even have that much money. And worse, Callahan's influence still lingered. Old connections. Old favors. Powerful friends. At first, Ethan tried to stay calm. He hired a modest attorney, a woman named Sarah, who believed in his case. "We'll fight this," she assured him. "He doesn't have a leg to stand on." But then came the anonymous email. "Drop the case, or you'll regret it." Ethan brushed it off as a prank. Until the second email arrived. This time, it wasn't just a threat. Attached was a photo. His apartment door. Taken from outside. At night. From that day forward, Ethan noticed things. His car tires slashed. His mailbox ripped open. Unfamiliar faces lingering outside his building. Sarah urged him to file a police report. But the officer only shrugged. "Could be anyone. Could be nothing. Unless you've got proof, our hands are tied." Proof. That's exactly what Ethan needed. When the first court hearing began, Callahan appeared calm, smug even. His lawyer painted Ethan as a disgruntled employee with a personal vendetta. They twisted the narrative. Ethan wasn't a whistleblower. He was obsessed with revenge. The jury shifted uncomfortably. Ethan could feel the room tilting against him. Until Sarah pulled out her trump card. A hard drive. Every single after-hours demand. Every single weekend email. Hundreds of them. The courtroom gasped. For a moment, Ethan thought the tide had turned. But then, Callahan's lawyer leaned forward with a smirk. Interesting evidence. But tell me, Mr. Ethan, how exactly did you obtain this? Company property? Unauthorized access? Suddenly, Ethan wasn't the accuser. He was the one under suspicion. Whispers filled the courtroom. As the judge called for recess, Sarah whispered urgently. They're trying to flip this on you. If they convince the court you mishandled company data, this won't just be a lawsuit. It could become criminal charges. Ethan's chest tightened. This was no longer about losing money. This was about losing his freedom. That night, Ethan sat alone, staring at the glowing city outside his window. His phone buzzed. Another email. No subject. No signature. Just 2 words. Too late. The next morning, Ethan woke to banging on his door. When he opened it, 2 men in suits stood outside. Behind them, a police badge glinted in the light. Ethan Clark, one of them asked. You need to come with us. Now. Ethan froze. Was this about the lawsuit? Or something far, far worse? Ethan's world froze at the sound of those words. You need to come with us. Now. The hallway outside his apartment was silent. Neighbors peeked through cracked doors, curious but afraid. Ethan's throat went dry. Am I under arrest? He asked carefully. The taller officer glanced at his partner, then back at Ethan. Not yet, but you might want a lawyer present. An hour later, Ethan sat in a cold metal chair under buzzing fluorescent lights. A camera blinked red in the corner. On the table, a thin manila folder. Inside it, the pieces of a puzzle Ethan had never seen before. Detective Alvarez entered, his expression unreadable. He didn't waste time. Ethan Clark, do you know a woman named Amanda Price? Ethan frowned. The name meant nothing to him. No. Alvarez slid a photo across the table. Amanda Price, 32 years old. Missing for 3 days. Last seen leaving the very building where Ethan used to work. The detective leaned forward. Her phone records show the last number she called was yours. Ethan's heart stopped. That's impossible. I don't even know her. But Alvarez wasn't smiling. Funny, because we traced a burner phone purchased with your credit card last month. The same phone that called her. Ethan's head spun. His credit card? A burner phone? Someone had set him up. You see why we're here, Alvarez continued. First, you blow the whistle on your boss. Then suddenly a woman connected to that company vanishes. And your number is the last one she dialed. Ethan shook his head violently. No, this isn't me. Someone's framing me. The detective sighed, closing the file. Then you won't mind answering a few more questions under oath. Before Ethan could respond, Alvarez dropped something else on the table. A small flash drive sealed in an evidence bag. We pulled this from Amanda's apartment. Through the plastic, Ethan could see a familiar logo stamped on the drive. The same logo as the company he had exposed. Alvarez locked eyes with him. Care to explain why your former employer's private files were hidden in the home of a missing woman? Ethan's mouth went dry. Because he could explain it. He recognized that flash drive instantly. It wasn't just from his old company. It was his. Ethan's pulse hammered as the detective pushed the flash drive closer. The metal gleamed under the fluorescent light, mocking him. It was his, no question. But how did it end up in Amanda Price's apartment? Ethan swallowed hard. That drive was stolen from me months ago. Alvarez raised an eyebrow. Stolen? By who? I don't know, Ethan stammered. But I kept backup files on the company, records, documents. Proof of their fraud. Then one night my apartment was broken into. Laptop gone. Drive gone. Everything. The detective leaned back, skeptical. Convenient story. But it doesn't explain why Amanda Price had it. Alvarez opened the folder again, pulling out a photo. Amanda, smiling, standing beside a man Ethan instantly recognized. His former boss. The CEO. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. Amanda Price hadn't been a random victim. She had been connected to the very people he exposed. So, Alvarez said, his tone sharp, your drive is found in her apartment. She worked with the company you tried to bring down. And now she's missing. The detective's eyes narrowed. Tell me why I shouldn't charge you right now. Ethan's palms were slick with sweat. His words stumbled. Because they're framing me. If I go down, the real story never comes out. Alvarez leaned in, his face inches from Ethan's. Then give me a reason to believe you. Before Ethan could respond, the interrogation room door burst open. A woman in a sharp gray suit walked in, tossing a badge on the table. Detective Alvarez, questioning is over. Alvarez stiffened. Excuse me? Who are you? The woman's voice was firm. Special Agent Harper. Federal Task Force. Mr. Clark is coming with me. Ethan blinked in disbelief. The FBI? Why would they want him? As Agent Harper pulled him to his feet, she whispered something only he could hear. You have no idea how deep this goes. But if you want to survive, don't trust anyone in this building. Ethan sat in the back of the black SUV, wrists still sore from the cuffs. Agent Harper didn't speak at first. She just drove, fast, weaving through the Los Angeles night. Finally, Ethan snapped. Why did you pull me out? What's going on? Harper's eyes flicked to the rearview mirror. That flash drive you kept? It's bigger than you realize. It doesn't just implicate your old company. It connects to politicians, judges, even law enforcement. Ethan froze. You mean Alvarez too? She didn't answer directly. Instead, she handed him a sealed envelope. Inside is a list of names. People tied to a laundering operation worth billions. Amanda Price was working undercover for us. She got too close. That's why she disappeared. Ethan's stomach dropped. Amanda wasn't just a random victim. She had been on his side. But, Ethan's voice cracked. If she was undercover, why was my flash drive in her apartment? Harper's eyes darkened. Because she trusted you. She believed you were the only person outside the bureau who could connect the dots. Ethan's chest tightened. If Amanda had believed in him, where was she now? Before he could ask, Harper slammed the brakes. The SUV screeched to a halt on a deserted overpass. Ethan looked around, panicked. Why are we stopping? Harper leaned closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. Because if they're tracking us, and trust me, they are, we won't make it to headquarters alive. She reached under her seat, pulled out a burner phone, and shoved it into Ethan's hands. When I give the word, you run. Don't look back. Don't stop. Someone will find you. Ethan's voice shook. Wait, what about you? Harper's eyes met his in the dark. I already know I'm not making it out of this. But you might. Before Ethan could respond, headlights appeared in the distance, dozens of them. SUVs boxed them in from both sides. Doors flew open. Men in black tactical gear poured out, rifles raised. Harper whispered one last word. Run. The SUV doors burst open. Flashlights blazed. Step out of the vehicle. A voice roared through a bullhorn. Ethan's heart pounded in his ears. Harper gripped his arm, shoving the burner phone deeper into his hand. Now, Ethan. Run. He bolted from the passenger door, feet slamming against the asphalt. Bullets cracked through the night, sparks flying as rounds pinged off the guardrail. Ethan ducked low, weaving between shadows, his lungs burning with every stride. Behind him, Harper fired back, her pistol barking into the darkness. Her shouts faded into chaos. The last thing Ethan heard was her voice. Go. Don't stop. Tires screeched. More men spilled out, chasing him on foot. He stumbled down the embankment, crashing through weeds and rocks until his shoes hit dirt. A storm drain loomed ahead, an open maw in the concrete. Without thinking, Ethan dove in. Darkness swallowed him. The stench of rot and water choked his breath, but at least it was cover. The pounding footsteps above told him the gunman hadn't seen where he'd gone. He pulled out the burner phone, his fingers trembling. The screen lit with one contact. Just a single name, A. Price. His throat tightened. Amanda. She was alive? He pressed call. One ring. Two. Then, a faint whisper crackled through the speaker. Ethan, is that you? Relief hit him like a wave. Amanda, where are you? What's happening? Her voice was weak, strained. They've got me. I don't know where. But listen, don't trust Harper. She's not who you think she is. Ethan froze. What are you talking about? She just saved my life. No, Amanda's voice cracked. She saved you because you still have something she needs. Ethan, Harper is working for them. The line went dead. Ethan stood frozen in the dark tunnel, heart hammering, Amanda's warning echoing in his head. Above him, a flashlight beam sliced across the drain's opening. A voice growled. He's down here. Ethan's world tilted. If Amanda was right, then Harper had set him up from the start. But if Amanda was lying, then who could he trust? The storm drain echoed with footsteps above. They've got him cornered, a voice barked. Ethan clutched the burner phone, Amanda's last words ringing in his ears. Harper is working for them. His chest tightened. If that was true, then he was trapped between enemies he couldn't even see. He splashed through ankle-deep water, the tunnel stretching endlessly in both directions. Shouts grew closer, flashlights sweeping inside. Heart pounding, Ethan yanked open a rusted maintenance grate, dragging himself upward. His arms burned as he clawed into a narrow service shaft, barely wide enough to crawl. Behind him, heavy boots hit the tunnel floor. Spread out. He's in here. Ethan pulled himself higher, coughing on dust, until his head slammed against another grate. He shoved, metal screeching. Finally, it gave way, opening into a dimly lit alley behind a row of abandoned warehouses. He dropped hard onto the pavement, knees buckling. Then, a figure stepped out of the shadows. It was Harper. Her gray suit was torn, her face streaked with dirt, but her pistol was steady in her hands. Ethan, she said, her voice low but urgent. You need to come with me. Now. Ethan's grip tightened on the burner phone. Amanda's voice replayed in his mind. Don't trust Harper. He staggered back a step. How do I know you're not setting me up? Harper's jaw clenched. Because if I wanted you dead, you'd already be in a body bag. Now move before they find us. Her eyes darted toward the warehouses, scanning the rooftops. They're already closing in. Ethan swallowed hard. If Amanda was alive, how did Harper not know? And if Harper was lying, why was she still protecting him? His mind raced. Two voices, two sides, both demanding his trust. One had already vanished into the shadows. The other was standing right in front of him with a gun. Suddenly, the burner phone buzzed again. The screen lit up with one message. Envelope with arrow, Ethan, if you go with her, you won't make it out alive. A price. Ethan's blood ran cold. Harper stepped closer, pistol still raised. Ethan. Decide. Now. The alley was silent except for the faint buzz of the burner phone in Ethan's hand. Amanda's warning glowed on the cracked screen. Envelope with arrow, if you go with her, you won't make it out alive. Harper's pistol never wavered. Ethan. We don't have time. Come with me, or you're dead. Ethan's mind spun. If Harper was telling the truth, staying meant capture, or worse. If Amanda was telling the truth, following Harper was walking into a trap. Every muscle in his body screamed with indecision. He took a slow step forward. All right, Ethan said, raising his hands. I'll go with you. Harper nodded sharply, lowering her weapon slightly. Good choice. But as she turned, leading him toward the warehouses, Ethan slipped the burner phone into his pocket and pressed record. If this was a trap, he needed proof. They entered through a rusted side door. The air inside was thick with dust and the faint hum of generators. Rows of crates stretched into darkness. Harper moved quickly, motioning for Ethan to stay close. Safe house is upstairs. You'll be protected there until we can move you. But something felt wrong. The shadows were too still. The silence too heavy. Then voices. Two men stepped out from behind a stack of crates, rifles slung over their shoulders. And between them, Detective Alvarez. He smiled coldly at Ethan. Glad you finally decided to join us. Ethan's chest tightened. He turned to Harper. Her face was blank, unreadable. Harper, his voice cracked. You set me up? She didn't answer. She didn't need to. Alvarez stepped closer, his grin widening. You've been running in circles, kid. But the game's over. Tonight, the truth dies with you. Before Ethan could react, the warehouse lights snapped on, blinding, harsh. From the catwalk above, a familiar voice rang out. Not tonight, it doesn't. Ethan's head snapped upward. Amanda. Alive. Armed. And aiming straight at Alvarez. The warehouse froze. Amanda stood on the catwalk above, rifle locked on Alvarez. Her voice cut through the silence. Step away from him. Now. Alvarez chuckled, unbothered. Well, look who crawled out of hiding. You should have stayed dead, Amanda. Ethan's pulse thundered. Harper shifted uneasily at his side, her pistol twitching between him and Amanda. Harper, Amanda called down, eyes sharp. Think about what you're doing. You know who Alvarez really works for. Harper's jaw clenched. I don't take orders from ghosts. Alvarez raised his hand, and the two armed men flanking him tightened their grips on their rifles. You've got maybe 10 seconds before this turns into a bloodbath, he sneered. Ethan, you've been a thorn long enough. Amanda, you're already dead. Harper, finish what you started. Ethan's heart hammered. Two paths. If Amanda was right, Alvarez was the true puppet master. If she was wrong, siding with her could mean certain death. But Amanda's words rang in his ears. You know who he really works for. Ethan took a deep breath and shouted. Harper, don't you see? Alvarez isn't after justice. He's after control. Why else would he want me silenced? Amanda's finger tightened on the trigger. Harper hesitated. For the first time, her eyes flickered with doubt. Alvarez's grin faltered. Enough, he barked. Shoot him now. But Harper didn't move. Her hand trembled. Then, from outside the warehouse, came the screech of tires. Engines. Multiple. Headlights flooded the cracked windows. Alvarez's men spun toward the noise, rifles raised. Amanda's voice dropped to a whisper, barely audible but chilling. They found us. The warehouse shook as black SUVs screeched to a halt outside. Doors slammed. Boots thundered on the pavement. Alvarez's grin returned. They're here. Floodlights pierced the cracked windows, blinding Ethan. Armed men stormed inside, dressed in tactical black. They weren't police. They weren't military. They were private, bought and paid for. Amanda opened fire from the catwalk, dropping two instantly. Chaos erupted, bullets, shouting, the sting of smoke grenades. Ethan ducked behind a crate, his ears ringing. Harper dragged him down, covering him with her own body. Stay down, she barked. But when Ethan looked at her, her face was twisted with conflict. Her gun wasn't aimed at him. It wasn't aimed at Amanda. It was aimed at Alvarez. Do it, Amanda screamed from above. End him. Harper's finger hovered on the trigger, sweat dripping down her cheek. Alvarez, calm as ever, smirked. You pull that trigger, Harper, and every secret you buried comes back to light. Her hand trembled. The smoke cleared just enough for Ethan to see. Alvarez on the ground, clutching his leg, screaming. Harper had fired. Amanda vaulted from the catwalk, landing beside Ethan. She shoved Harper back. Why now? Why wait until everything's burning down? Harper's jaw clenched. You think you know me? Alvarez owned me. Every dirty job, every crime I tried to bury, he had proof. I couldn't move against him until now. Alvarez laughed, blood pooling beneath him. You'll never outrun it, Harper. You can't kill what's already in the system. Your name is mine. Amanda slammed her rifle, but into his face. Shut up. But Alvarez spat blood, locking eyes with Ethan. You think you've won? You're just a pawn. Ask her who she really works for. Amanda froze. Ethan stared at her. Amanda, what's he talking about? Amanda didn't answer. The name hit Ethan like ice. Callahan. The boss he thought was destroyed. The man who started it all. Amanda finally spoke, her voice tight. He's bigger than you realize, Ethan. Alvarez wasn't the head. He was just a handler. Callahan owns judges, lawyers, half the city's money. You cut one head off, another grows back. Ethan's throat tightened. So this was never about Alvarez? Amanda shook her head. No, it's always been about him. Ethan's phone buzzed. A text message lit the cracked screen. We warned you once. This time, it's your family. He froze. No, not them. Amanda grabbed his shoulders. We don't have time. If he knows where they are. Ethan's phone rang again. Unknown caller. He answered with shaking hands. And Callahan's voice slithered through the line. You thought you'd beaten me, boy? Tonight, I take everything from you. Ethan's world collapsed in seconds. He, Amanda, and Harper raced across the city, toward the safe house where his family was hiding. But Callahan was already waiting. Surrounded by guards, dressed sharp as ever, he smiled like the devil himself. You really thought an HR complaint could bring me down? I build empires on men like you. Amanda raised her rifle. Harper mirrored her. But Callahan just laughed. Go ahead. Shoot me. My people will bury this so deep, history won't even remember your name. Ethan stepped forward. His hands shook, but his voice didn't. Maybe. But I've got something you can't bury. From his pocket, he pulled the phone. The recording he started when Harper led him here. Every word Alvarez confessed. Every threat Callahan made. All of it streaming. Live, straight to the press. Callahan's smirk faltered. You wouldn't. The warehouse doors burst open. Journalists' cameras flashing lights. The truth was out. Callahan's guards lowered their weapons, confused. Sirens wailed in the distance. Amanda leaned close to Ethan, whispering, You just signed your own death warrant. Callahan was dragged away, shouting promises of vengeance. Ethan collapsed, finally free. Or so he thought. The next morning, Ethan woke to an empty apartment. Amanda was gone. On the kitchen counter, a single note. They'll come for you next. Be ready. If this story gripped you, imagine the next one. Collision, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you never miss the twists, the betrayals, and the secrets we uncover here. Your support keeps these stories alive.